I'm supposed to get married in a couple of weeks, and recently my sister-in-law got it into her head that she was going to throw me a bridal shower. My sister-in-law, let's call her Eva, is 3 years younger than me, and she seems sweet but can come off too strong occasionally. I'm 27 years old, and so is my fiance, Jacob. Both of us lived away from home for a really long time and went to college out of state, which is where we met. However, we were not friends when we were in college, so we never really connected back then, and it wasn't until 3 years ago that we finally started dating. I ran into him at a party, and we realized that we were one of the few people who had stayed while everybody else had moved back to their respective homes after graduation. That's when we started talking, and we never stopped, I guess. We moved in together so we could split the rent after 3 months of dating, and he decided to introduce me to his family after almost 6 months of being together because the time just felt right, and so did I. Now, I hadn't exactly met his family properly before that, but I had had an interaction with his sister at our graduation ceremony. She had come up to me to compliment my earrings back then, so I remember her, and we got along really well the first time that I had dinner with his family. And I remember thinking that it was nice to have such a sweet sister-in-law to be. But then, with time, I started getting to know her better, and it started getting a little annoying because I thought she could be a bit overbearing at times, and I really can't stand that kind of behavior. Part of the reason that I had moved away from my home and my family was because even though I loved them, I could not stand it when people tried to control my life and make me live on their terms. I had more freedom away from them, so I moved away. And I think that's the same reason that Jacob moved as well. But then, about 4 months after we had met each other's families, Eva called me to tell me that she was moving closer to us because she had been applying for jobs in our city and had finally been hired at one company, and she had decided that she wanted to live nearby. I didn't really have a problem with it, but I thought it would get a little too suffocating to have to see her every day and have her live so close. So I decided to tell her that it would be more convenient for her to live closer to the city because Jacob and I lived in the suburbs. And it was okay for us because we didn't have to go too far for work, because I worked from home on most days. And his office is pretty close, but for her, that commute would be way too much. She seemed a little put off by that, but she didn't argue. Jacob and I both agreed that it would be for the best for her to live a little distance away from us because too much of a good thing is actually a bad thing. And as much as we loved our families, we did not want them around us constantly. And it would be important for us to have our space as well. It would also help Eva get acquainted with the city and make her own way, because otherwise she would just end up relying on us for everything. And we had our own lives. We couldn't always be there for her. But we still helped her look for a place and moved in. We also told her about all the best spots in the city and did everything in our own power to make her feel comfortable. We told her that any time she was in trouble or needed something, we would always be there for her because this was her first time living away from her parents and friends in a brand new city. And we knew firsthand how intimidating that could be. We did everything and said everything to make her feel like she could count on us, and she really could when it actually came down to it. But I guess things just got a little lost on her, and she believed that being able to count on us meant that she could show up at our house whenever she wanted to, and we would have to be okay with it. After she moved here, she would start showing up at our place every other day, and it was very inconvenient because after a long day of working, the last thing that Jacob and I wanted was this. I know that this makes us sound like total jerks, but honestly, we just wanted some time to ourselves, and we wanted our own space. And I don't know how to say it without sounding rude, but what she was doing just felt like a violation of our space. It wasn't even like she was lonely. At least that would have made some sense. But from her posts online, we could tell that she had already made a lot of friends, but she still showed up at our house consistently every other day. She would literally cancel plans with her friends to hang out with us, and we wouldn't have had a problem with it and would have actually found it very sweet if she didn't do it literally every other day. Even when Jacob and I would try to talk to each other about household matters and bills and stuff, she would hijack every conversation and make it about herself, which was kind of annoying. It just felt like she was everywhere. It was getting a bit much for us. So we had a conversation about it and we decided that we would just have to tell her that she had to cut it out. And we couldn't let her come over every other day because we needed our own space as well, and this was becoming unhealthy. After about a month of this, we finally confronted her and told her that we didn't want her to visit so frequently, and she should limit herself because it was becoming too much. But when we told her that, she started crying and said that she had always known that I didn't like her, and she was just trying to win me over. I don't know where she got that from. So I asked her about it, and she told me that she always got the vibe that I didn't like her because I would never initiate conversations with her. And even when she tried to talk to me, I would just be very quiet and distant. She also brought up the fact that I had suggested she live far away from us, which meant that I didn't want her around, and it seemed quite mean, especially when she was trying to make me her friend. And all right, maybe she got me with that one. But honestly, I am that way with everyone who is not close to me. So apart from a few of my friends, my father and Jacob's, that's how I act with everybody because I like having my own space. I also really didn't like Eva that much after I really got to know her, which was after she moved here. So I decided to be honest with her and told her that I am a bit introverted anyway, and after she moved here, she had become very overbearing and I was finding it difficult to deal with it. So my behavior towards her had changed, and I could understand that she was trying to make things better between us, but visiting us frequently would not make it better, and I think it would be for the best if we took a breather from each other and put this discussion on hold so we didn't end up hurting each other. I thought it was a reasonable suggestion, but she said that she wanted to talk it through that day itself. She told me that I had to open up to her or else we would never have a good relationship. And since Jacob and I were going strong, so she knew that we were going to get married eventually and she wanted to have a good relationship with me because I was going to be her sister-in-law. I found it a bit unnecessary. And she basically strong armed me into having a confrontation with her that day. If I'm being honest right now, the conversation that we had that day was pretty pointless because it was just her talking about her own feelings and completely invalidating everything that I said. She kept insisting that I did not like the fact that she wanted to hang out with me so often, and it was an insult to her, and said that she considers me family, so it was quite unfair for me to treat her that way. She told me that she had only tried to make me happy, but if I really disliked her so much, then she would never visit us again, and got quite emotional. I honestly thought that she was being very manipulative at the time because she was behaving in such a way that made us seem like the bad guys for simply wanting to have boundaries. But I was tired of that conversation, so I ended up apologizing to her just because I wanted it to be over. Jacob also did the same, but we agreed that she was being quite manipulative after she had left and decided that we were going to try and put some distance between us for the next couple of weeks. But that was unnecessary because after that discussion, she herself took the hint and stopped visiting us that often. The downside to that was that she had become quite snarky about this. After that, every time we met, whether it was at family events or even if it was just her coming to visit her brother, she would make jokes about me wanting my own space and stuff like that. It was harmless, but pretty annoying because she made it sound like I was being unreasonable and crazy, but I really wasn't. And it was so petty that I didn't even want to bring it up with her and have another confrontation because she was quite manipulative. And I knew that she would just cry her way out of that one as well. So I said nothing about it, but things were a little weird between us after that. It only got better after Jacob proposed to me a few months ago, and I think that's when she stopped being so sour towards me. Probably because she now knew for sure that I was going to be a permanent part of the family and didn't want to get on my bad side, since that could create a rift between her and her brother. Jacob already had addressed the problems that he had with her, but he had kept in touch with her because, regardless of everything, they were still quite close as a family, and that was the only reason we still kept in touch with her even after she had shown us exactly how manipulative and cunning she could be. But after the proposal, she started being nice to me, and I really appreciated it because I didn't want to hold any grudges against her. I was ready to have a fresh start and move on because I was going to be a more permanent part of the family now, and I didn't want to have any bad blood with anyone before I got married. She was quite helpful throughout the process of planning the wedding and everything, and was nice to me all through. So when a few weeks ago she asked me if I wanted her to throw me a bridal shower, I didn't say no. I figured that since she was being so nice to me, she would probably do a good job, and even though I didn't have any plans initially of having a bridal shower for anything of the sort, I thought I would give it a chance because she seemed quite excited about it and I didn't want to break her heart by saying no. So she got to the planning, and I even gave her a guest list and everything was going smoothly. But then 2 days before the event, she told me that she wanted me to show up at the venue at least an hour before. And when I asked her why, she told me that she just wanted me to make sure that everything was perfect the way it was, and if we had 1 hour, then I could come around, check everything out, and make any necessary changes before the guests started to arrive. I was really tired because, apart from planning the wedding and everything, I was also working, and it was all getting very exhausting for me. So I didn't want this extra task of checking out the venue as well, and I told her that she could do it herself and I would be fine with it. But she insisted that I come around an hour before and check everything out. So I agreed, but I felt like something was fishy about the way she was acting. And when I got there on the day of the event, I finally realized why she had wanted me to come an hour before the event was supposed to begin. She had taken it upon herself to invite my estranged mother to my bridal shower. And as soon as I entered the place, I did a double take because she was the last person I would ever expect to see here, and she didn't even know how to read the room because both my mother and I were equally awkward and uncomfortable to see each other. And she thought it would be nice to yell out "surprise" as if it was perfectly fine. She had always known that my mother was not a part of my life and hadn't been for about 7 years now. And we had a very bad fallout a couple of years ago. I had a massive fight with my mother because she was constantly trying to control my life and make me like her, which is not something that I wanted to be. And any time I would disagree with her, she would start insulting me, and it just really got to me, which eventually led to the fight. We had never had a good relationship even before the fight, but that argument was actually what ended everything. And since then, we haven't spoken. But the point is that Eva knew about it, and yet she went ahead and invited her to my bridal shower. She even went on to tell us that she now wanted us to make peace with our past and hug it out so we could finally have a fresh start and fix our relationship. At that point, I kind of lost it at her. My mother was looking at Eva as if she was crazy, and I just snapped and started yelling at her because this was completely unacceptable behavior to me, and I just wasn't going to let this one go. I told her off and said that she had no right to take matters into her own hands and try to control my life and make me do things that she thought I should be doing. I told her that inviting my mother to any event without even bothering to ask me first was a gross violation of my privacy, and we were not even that close. So I don't even know what she was thinking or why she believed that she could do this and get away with it. But I was going to make sure that there were consequences for this because she can't just put on the good guy act and get away with everything. She tried to defend herself and say that her heart was in the right place and she only wanted to help me reconnect with my mother before such an important day. But that's the whole point. It was not her place to help me do anything at all, and she didn't even think how I would feel. If she really had thought this through and cared about my feelings, then she wouldn't have done this. At that point, my mother intervened and told Eva that it was quite stupid of her to expect me to be grateful for anything at all, because that's just who I was as a person, and she should have known that there was something fishy the second Eva told her that she was invited to the event, because I wanted to apologize to her and make things right. She should have known that I would never apologize for anything because I am an ungrateful brat and will always remain one. Then she told me that I was always going to be closer to her, and she was just mad at herself for believing that I was capable enough to regret my decisions and apologize to her. She shouldn't have bothered coming here at all because I don't deserve it, and this was all just a waste of her time. I didn't even say anything to her because it was not worth it, and I let her storm out, and a few seconds after that, I followed because I didn't want to listen to Eva defending her decision any longer, and I was only waiting for the coast to be clear. After my mother was gone, I left as well, and I got into the car before Eva could chase me down and try to stop me. I was so mad that I didn't even want to attend the event, and I didn't even care about everybody else who was invited because my blood was boiling at that point, and I just wanted to get out of there. I blocked Eva so she wouldn't be able to contact me because I really didn't want her to be able to say anything to me. As soon as I was home, I decided to talk to Jacob and tell him about everything because this was the last straw for me and I couldn't tolerate Eva anymore. She had crossed the line and I was not okay with it. I was fuming, so it took me a while to calm down, but once I did, I told Jacob about what Eva did, and he was equally outraged as me because he knew that my mother and I did not have a good relationship, and it was nobody else's place to decide what was good for me other than myself. He called Eva up and demanded that she apologize to me, but instead of just acknowledging her screw-up, she decided to turn the tables and pretend like I was the bad guy for storming out without even giving her a chance to fix things between my mother and I. She started playing the victim once again, and I could hear her since she was on speaker. I don't think she knew that, or else she would have probably been a little less sly. She told Jacob that she was only trying to help me out and she didn't know that I would overreact the way I did. She then said that she found my reaction unacceptable, and if anything, then I am the one who owes her an apology because she had organized a really beautiful bridal shower for me, and I had completely ruined it with my temper. And then she had to cancel everything and call everybody up, even individually, to let them know that this was not happening anymore. She demanded that I pay her back for the whole thing because I had ruined everything and she wanted me to compensate her for it. But Jacob was really pissed off by what she said and told her that not only was I not going to give her the money because it was her own fault that she had to cancel everything, but she was also no longer invited to the wedding because it was quite unnecessary for us to have somebody at the wedding who did not respect us enough to treat us well, and we would all be better if she did not show up. Then he hung up and we decided that we were not going to speak to her unless she apologized, which was unlikely because she was always trying to play the victim and be manipulative. But this was too far. However, after that, we began to receive several calls and texts from his parents, and they were trying to get to the bottom of this because apparently Eva had called them up crying and complaining about our behavior. She had told them that we had disinvited her from the wedding just because she had tried to do something nice for me at the bridal shower, and now we were even refusing to pay her back, which was unfair because she had spent quite a lot of money on this event, and I had initially promised her that I would pay her back. But now I did not see a reason to do that because I didn't even get to enjoy the event, and it ended up being cancelled because of her own stupidity. So I don't see why I should give her any money when she completely ruined that day for me. And she does not deserve to be at my wedding, that's for sure, because she really disrespected me, and Jacob and I are not going to tolerate that kind of behavior. But my in-laws think that we are being too hard on her and we should think about how she feels because she was only trying to do a nice thing for me and she didn't exactly think it through, which makes her kind of dumb, but not exactly malicious like we are making her out to be, and she deserves a second chance. We tried to tell them that she did get a second chance, and Jacob had told her that she could fix everything by apologizing to me at least once. But she chose not to do that, and instead tried to blame me for what had happened. But even then, my in-laws insisted that her heart was in the right place and I should give her another chance, and not doing so would make me the bad guy because then they would be forced to reconsider if even they wanted to be present at the wedding, because if their daughter was not welcome here, then it would be very difficult for them to attend, since this was supposed to be a happy family occasion. And now Jacob is upset, and I have no idea what to do because I feel like he's being forced to choose between his family and me, just because I lost my temper at Eva. I feel like I screwed everything up, and even though deep down I know that at least some of this is definitely Eva's fault, I probably should have controlled my temper better. AITA for getting mad at my sister-in-law because she invited my estranged mother to my bridal shower without my consent and tried to force us to reconcile. Edit. Hi, so a lot of you have been asking what my last argument with my mother was about, and it was basically just her trying to get me to drop out of college so I could apply to medical school instead. She said that I was wasting my life by not following in her footsteps, and that I was a disappointment to her. This was nothing new because I've been hearing these things ever since I was a child, and she believed that this would make me do better in life, but all it did was make me hate her. She and my dad got divorced when I was very little, so they had partial custody of me. But I really preferred staying with my dad because he acted like a normal parent and not a complete psycho like my mother. She would constantly make fun of me and humiliate me from a very young age. And he thought that putting me under insane amounts of pressure would make me a genius and unlock my full potential or whatever. But that's not really what happened. That last fight that we had was at a family dinner and a lot of my relatives were there, which is why it stung even more that she was trying to humiliate me in front of all of them. And she even went on to say that if I didn't go to medical school and become a doctor like her, then I would end up just like my pathetic father. That's when I completely lost it. And yeah, that was the end of our very bad, toxic relationship, and I have no regrets about any of it. Eva and my in-laws know about this and always have. Update 1. Hi, so it's now been 1.5 weeks since my failed bridal shower, and I have decided that no matter what, I am not going to talk to Eva. She can't get away with this every time and play the victim every time she's confronted about what she did wrong. If she is wrong, then that's just it. There's no defense for what she did. And even if I'm willing to give her the benefit of the doubt and believe that she had good intentions, it does not take away from the impact of what she did. And she should have at least apologized for everything after she realized that I was not all right with my mother being present at the event, or even back in my life in any capacity. But she chose to double down on what she did and tried to make me look bad by acting as if she was the victim here. I have spoken to Jacob, and he says that he is upset, but he's not going to force me to do anything that I don't want to, because at the end of the day, he is marrying me, and I am his first priority now. That was really sweet, and I really appreciate him for saying that. I know his family means a lot to him, but I guess he doesn't mean as much to them, because if he did, then they might have been kinder. But whatever. They haven't even spoken to him ever since Eva complained about our behavior, and I think that it's absolutely disgraceful that they are acting this way with just a few weeks to go for our wedding. Update 2. It's been 3 weeks since my fight with Eva, and recently Jacob and I learned that we had been blocked everywhere by Eva and her parents. I had blocked Eva first, so I don't really mind, but Jacob was kind of upset when he found out, because this meant that his parents would definitely not be attending the wedding, And that was kind of a bummer for us since we really wanted this day to be perfect and had been looking forward to it for a really long time. But I guess things don't always pan out the way that you want them to, and we just had to be okay with it because we don't have a choice. The wedding is in less than 2 weeks, so if my in laws really want to make things right, then they have some time. But I highly doubt that they're going to come back to Jacob because it's very clear to me now that it's more important for them to put their daughter's feelings above their son's. And I guess that was one of the reasons why Eva would never become a better person, because her parents just keep enabling her. It's kind of sad because she will go through life constantly thinking that she's the victim in every situation that she's ever in. But in reality, well, we all know the truth. Update 3. Hey folks, so I am married now and I am quite happy about it. The wedding was everything that I had ever hoped and dreamed of, and on the day of the wedding, Jacob and I were so excited that we barely even thought of anybody else, especially people who are not even there. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, his parents and Eva were not able to keep their massive egos aside for even one day to make Jacob happy, and therefore did not attend. But we still had a great time, and nobody asked about them either because they had been busy gossiping about Jacob to their own relatives, and everybody pretty much knew about the fallout that they had. And guess what? They were on my side with this one. So whatever their plan was, it backfired pretty badly, and they totally deserved it. The important thing was that Jacob and I would be happy on our wedding day, and that we were, so we don't really care about anybody else. Stay tuned for more stories from Argo Relationships.